Welcome to Wise Tales. Today we are joined by Mike Stasko, who serves as the president of Sunny Street Cafe, a breakfast and lunch restaurant group headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. Known for its fancy pancakes made from scratch classics and family-centric atmosphere, the brand operates 22 locations. With over 20 years of experience in the restaurant industry, Mike has honed his expertise across marketing, menu development, product strategy, franchise support, and operations. His leadership has been instrumental in driving Sunny Street Cafe's growth, enhancing franchisee success, and strengthening the brand's reputation as a trusted, go-to neighborhood staple for breakfast and lunch. Mike's forward-thinking approach has propelled Sunny Street Cafe to new heights, introducing innovative menu offerings, implementing strategic growth initiatives, and bolstering the brand's tech stack. By prioritizing operational excellence and staying attuned to evolving guest expectations, Mike ensures Sunny Street Cafe consistently delivers the warm hospitality and elevated dining experience that makes the brand a standout in the industry. Mike, I am so honored to be joined by you today. Thank you for being on Wise Tales.
Hi, Evan. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So one of the things that we talked about during the prep call, I'm really excited to dive into, is a very unique approach y'all have toward balancing the franchise personalization and maintaining core community-driven identity. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like for you, how that philosophy was developed, and how that shows up in your locations?
Sure. It definitely evolved over time. I think on paper, everybody would like to develop a concept that you could just stamp out. Box was the same size, the layout was the same size, and every single aspect of the operation was same throughout locations. But that's not reality. One thing we learned pretty early on, and it's even more prevalent now, is guests really look for authenticity. And so the idea that each Sunny Street Cafe can be unique, can be a little different, can be crafted with the community in mind, with the owner-operator in mind, is something that's been at our core and been a big part of our success. That can manifest itself in a lot of different ways, whether it's regional menu offerings, whether it's the decor in the restaurant, or the ability for somebody to put their personality into the space, so that when you walk into a Sunny Street Cafe, it's a Sunny Street, but it looks a little different, feels a little different, and has some unique touches. And that's served us really well. And it continues to kind of be a little wrinkle that we've added to the model as we move forward.
So I'm curious, when you say wrinkle, I'm wondering if this presents challenges that can be seen as opportunities, for sure. Because when you were talking about stamping out same, there are a lot of organizations that have grown to great heights, let's say, in doing same. So what types of unique opportunities does this present to you as you're looking at these new franchise rollouts?
Yeah, a lot of different ways to answer that question. A couple that come to mind. One, the size of our box, it varies pretty greatly. We have stores as small as 2,600 square feet, all the way up to 4,600 square feet. Our sweet spot is around 3,200, but we've not necessarily seen a direct correlation with performance and the size of the box. And here, post-COVID, that's become pretty important as we look for sites, because people are trying to keep their build costs down. They're looking at smaller spaces. So being able to adapt a little bit and have the model prove that you can use a smaller space and still be successful has been is quite the boon for us as we talk to folks. To take that maybe a little more granular, when it comes to regional menu differences, we have folks that, or we have stores that are in the South, we have stores that are in the Midwest, and everywhere in between. And we recognize that there are some culinary differences, or there are some community favorites or regional favorites that you almost got to have. So we've worked in tandem with those stores in those regions to have kind of specialty menus or one-off offerings that we know are still high quality. We know that we can execute consistently from an operational perspective and don't get too far outside the lines of what, the core of our menu is. The challenge becomes it can start to get out of hand a little more quickly. You lose how tight you're monitoring food cost. And, suddenly we're not able to offer some expertise that we normally can when it comes to our core menu items, which we really fine tooth comb. So some unique challenges, but also some, real pluses on the other side of the coin too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the things I know that we've talked about before is your investment in community and how you have this community-driven approach. And it sounds like when you were talking about expectations of guests, that really flows and follows into some of your core values around community contributions and making sure your menu items are reflective of the communities where the locations are situated. And so how do you as an organization help new franchisees or expanding franchise opportunities embrace and sort of implement a community-focused approach in their stores?
Yeah, a few things. It definitely starts before we even do the grand opening. We ask the new store operator, what's important to you? And, how is your store going to support your community? And that, those answers can differ wildly based on people's backgrounds. But right from jump, when we do our friends and family, our VIP, kind of our test run prior to opening things, there's always a partnership with, a local organization so that there can be some give back and just some philanthropy built in right from jump. And then that trickles down into just putting together a marketing budget for the first year. We're small, we're a family-owned company. We don't have big media spend. National media is not a thing we do. A portion of the marketing budget is just straight up, how are you supporting your local schools or your churches or civic organizations? What teams are you sponsoring? Are you involved with the chamber? And those things are what we have the new store openings focus on. And those things usually continue to manifest themselves in good ways with community support and people coming in to eat your food and enjoy your service, which is really what we're trying to accomplish, right?
Oh, I think that is such a telling tale, and you've seen great success as you're beholden to that philosophy, and it sounds like it is definitely core of who you are and what you do. So congratulations. 22 locations is pretty fantastic to be able to invest and implement that in a really comprehensive way.
Thank you.
One of the things that I'm very interested in talking a little bit about is the restaurant industry is changing significantly, and this is no secret to anyone, whether it's rising food costs, whether it's really trying to constrain some of those operational expenditures. And so restaurants are frequently looking to innovate, looking to expand, looking to diversify, as everyone who has any kind of portfolio would attest to, right? Diversification is key to help you sort of navigate the ups and downs. Will you talk to me a little bit about some of those diversification exercises y'all have undertaken, how that's gone for you, where you've landed, and how you're expanding?
Yes, great. I have as many skin or knee stories as I do success stories, but I guess that's part of growth and that's part of life, yeah. But early on, we recognized that as a breakfast and lunch only concept, so we closed 6:30 to 2:30. We're paying for that box. We're paying for our real estate. Rent's going 24/7, 365. So that was a little heartburn early on in the game. So we explored ways to utilize those after hours that after hours part of the day, whether that was you're renting the space out for private events. We did a short stint, short expensive stint into dinner. We tested that in a market for some time, developed a standalone dinner menu that also went with the breakfast and lunch menu, and found out pretty quickly that that just wasn't at our core. That's not what we were about. We, our employee base got thinned out. We lost the quality of life aspect that really makes our concept special. And we were competing with folks that were not in our wheelhouse. So, long story short, we got out of the dinner game really quickly. And, then it dawned on us that catering could be our third day part, or our, quote unquote dinner day part. So we spent a lot of time developing the catering program specifically for breakfast and lunch. We knew lunch was an opportunity, but we thought breakfast had some serious white space. I think I mentioned to you before, when you think about breakfast catering, you think bagels, you think continental breakfast, maybe donuts, but to be able to do hot breakfast well was not something that people were doing. And that's served us really well. It's been just an absolute beast of a growth platform for our restaurants. And I guess, just as importantly, it fit in seamlessly with what we were doing. We didn't add a lot of SKUs. We weren't adding a ton of labor, and we developed the menu in tandem with what we were doing in store. So it became second nature. Happy to talk a lot more about that if you want, but catering has really become our innovation tactic, if you will, to add another revenue stream.
So what I really like about this story is, number one, the creativity, right? Innovation is oftentimes born out of necessity. And when we look at diversification, and oftentimes we think about sort of this horizontal type expansion for innovation. And so whether it's moving into dinner or any of those things, but that creates its own challenges. You're competing against different, very entrenched restaurants in the dinner space, all of those things that you mentioned. But we don't often hear stories of sort of that vertical innovation, right? The depth and doubling down on your core assets. And I'm a huge fan of looking at what you do best, which is, your breakfast. And my gosh, those pancakes look wonderful. But to be able to capitalize on that core strength that your organization has, I think that's something we don't always think about as innovation. And so that's why I really wanted to highlight that story, because it is really an expansion of what you already do well.
Yeah, and it sounds so simple in retrospect. It's like, well, it was right there in front of you, but it's not simple to execute. And sometimes you have those aha moments. But just to talk a little bit more about that, we were doing well. COVID hit, and we thought catering might go away forever. Who would ever do a buffet again? If you can harken back to that time, nobody was in the office, and it ground down to basically a halt. We were challenged with, what do we do with our catering infrastructure? Do our directors and our catering managers stay on board or not? We kept everybody on board, and we kept the faith. And sure enough, post-COVID, everybody's getting back into office, and companies are now trying to attract people to come into office, hybrid or full-time. And the sales are just through the roof because of it. So we were really positioned well from that development early on, and then kind of sticking with it through some of the tough times, so that we could be here right now kind of telling this success story to all your listeners.
Overnight success, years in the making, right? That's
Indeed.
oftentimes how it happens. One of the things I do want to ask a little bit about is, you're scaling quickly. You're growing quickly, whether it's the diversification into catering and really doubling down on those efforts, or continuing to expand locations. What types of tools and systems do you as an organization find incredibly helpful as you scale? And how do you ensure that your franchisees are set up for success from literally day one of groundbreaking?
Yeah, man, I have a lot of answers to that. I would say First and foremost, we own half the restaurants in the system, so we have skin in the game. And when we make investments into new technology stack or put new systems in place, we ask the question, how is that going to look at in terms of the unit level economics? Are we adding expense just because it's bright and shiny and new? Or is there provable ROI here? Is there something that's going to help retain guests or improve profitability? So I think that lens helps us make better decisions in terms of being a franchisor. That said, I think one of the biggest wins has been um, standardizing POS for us. We launched system wide with Toast in Q4 of last year. We were a little splintered on that front before, and that's just been a huge win. Everything from just improved hardware and technology to be able to do things tableside and reduce labor. Back in the day, it was a very diner-esque model where there was a cashier up at the front. You handed somebody a receipt, they walked up, they stood in line, they paid it, and you can imagine the inefficiency of that. And so to be able to change that just from a operational labor hour practicality standpoint has been a big one. Also on the back end, though, lots of cool things to do in terms of, menu mix, in terms of just some of the back end programming we can take off people's hands, store level hands, and save them time. So that one's been a huge win for us.
So when you think about employee development, what is your approach to using technology to help support? Is everything hands-on in your store, especially as we're thinking about the standardization at scale, with exceptions? I just made that up, so you don't have to use that in your marketing materials for sure. But recognizing your approach to community and flexibility in how the stores are built.
Sure. And I will steal that. I'll take it as my own. But put you in like the little small writing underneath it. Okay.
I appreciate it. I can just take an asterisk.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of employee development, we're about to launch a new learning management system. I will say that we've had some work to do in terms of how to replicate culture and make sure that training is top notch. I think those are some growing pains that come with being a smaller company, but we've had great luck in terms of employee retention and development. A lot of that has to do with just the folks that are running our stores, our culture in general. But at some point, you can't just rely on who you are and hope that that's going to replicate itself. So I do know that retention's great because of our hours, because of the lifestyle, because you can get out on a bad day at 3 o'clock and you're not grinding those late night dinner hours or bar shifts and things like that. So we tend to get people to come in and stay with us, and we've got 15-year plus anniversaries that we're celebrating, and that's really cool. So but we realize we got to get better and we need to invest in that. So we're rolling that out this summer, and that'll be a huge win for us just in terms of getting more efficient with our training and being able to develop people on a more clear path.
And I applaud you on the retention. 15 plus years is definitely nothing to sneeze at. I'm guessing the pancakes are part of that too, because who doesn't love to take new pancake flavors for a test drive?
Sure, if your food was terrible, that people would not be sticking around. I don't care how good the money is. So
I
a
think
free
that's
snack of pancakes every now and then, right?
so if anyone takes anything away from this podcast, make sure your food is good.
There we go. That's the silver bullet.
There it is, right there. Thank you. One of the things I like to ask every guest as we sort of wrap, because I think this helps give a flavor of personalization, and it's a fun question for me. If you were to design your own custom bumper sticker, I know people don't use bumper stickers all that often, but just roll with me here. If you were to design your own, what would it say and why?
I think it would say, be bold. That was advice my dad gave to me when I was young, and that stuck with me. Taking chances and not being afraid to fail, um, and putting yourself out there. It's difficult, but it's rewarding. It's rewarding in business. It's rewarding in life. Something I'm trying to pass down to the next generation too. So I think it would say be bold, but I love that question. I've heard other interviews, and it's always interesting to hear people's answers. And I don't know if that one's unique or not, and I don't even know who that's attributed to, but I think it would say be bold.
Well, I think it's attributed to you now, and much like the standardization with exceptions. But I think that's fantastic. And you talked a little bit about the skin and knee process, right? And being bold requires us to be okay with having skin knees and learn from those experiences. So no one has said that before. You are the first, and I appreciate that. Mike, this was such a fantastic conversation. I am very grateful for the time you spent with us today, and best of luck on your expansion efforts. And everyone, go try the pancakes.
Indeed. If you chocolate lava pancakes is my personal craving right now. So you get a
Oh,
big old scoop of whipped chocolate ganache on there. I mean, it definitely borderlines pancake and cake, but that's what's splurge worthy about it,
well, that's why the word cake is in the title. Like, I don't think we're misleading anyone on that.
for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.